Good morning everyone. Here we are going to discuss about some of the values of the enthalpy, different enthalpy factors. So we are going to discuss the first one, that the enthalpy change of a reaction, that is the enthalpy of a reaction. Simply you can say that whatever the enthalpy change is taking place during a chemical reaction, that is called the enthalpy of a reaction. Then how will you find that what is the enthalpy change during a reaction? You can see for any of the reaction, whatever the initial enthalpy was there before starting the reaction, that was the enthalpy of the reactant, and after completing the reaction, when the 100% reactant is converted in the form of the product, then whatever the final enthalpy is there, that is the enthalpy of the product. And how we find the difference in between two different values? We say the final value minus initial value is the difference. So in this case, when you will see the enthalpy of the reaction, that is the delta HR, enthalpy change of a reaction is sum of the enthalpy of the product minus sum of the enthalpy of the reactant. Here delta H is showing the enthalpy change, again the enthalpy change, and what is the A1 and B1? These of the A1 and B1 are the coefficient for any of the reactant or the product. How many reactant or product molecules are taking place, that is called the coefficient. Then this is the coefficient for the reactant and product. If you are taking any example, if you are taking the example CO plus half O2 gives CO, and if you are saying that the enthalpy of the formation of carbon monoxide is 110 negative, for this one which is the gaseous system and homoatomic molecule, the enthalpy change will be the 0, enthalpy of formation will be 0, and for this one it is minus 393.5. Then what is the enthalpy of the reaction? For this reaction, the enthalpy of the reaction is the enthalpy of the product. Actually only one molecule is there in the case of the product. Then sum of the enthalpy of product, that is the 393.5 minus sum of the enthalpy of the reactant, that is the minus 110. And when you will solve, whatever the value you will get, that will be the value of the enthalpy of the reactions. If the reaction is proceeding under standard condition, standard temperature, standard pressure के साथ अगर reaction को proceed कर रहे हैं, तो यही standard enthalpy of reaction बोला जाएगा. Standard enthalpy, that means the enthalpy change during or chemical reaction under standard condition, standard enthalpy of a reaction. Clear? Though this is one of the most important formula you can say. इस चैप्टर में सबसे ज्यादा क्वेश्चन, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन इसी फार्मूले पर सॉल्व होते हैं, दैट इज द एंथैल्पी, सम ऑफ द एंथैल्पी ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट माइनस सम ऑफ द एंथैल्पी ऑफ द रिएक्टेंट. किसी भी प्रोसेस के लिए जाएंगे, इसी फार्मूले की हेल्प से आप वैल्यूज को सॉल्व करके फाइंड करेंगे. सो द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक इज enthalpy of phase transformation. What is the phase transformation? If a system is changing, transforming their phase, that means the system is changing from solid phase to the liquid phase, solid phase to the direct gaseous phase, that is the sublimation, liquid to gas, liquid to solid, or vice versa, then all of these are the conditions are called the phase transformation. During the phase transformation, you know well that the change in temperature remains constant, even though some energy is needed for such phase transformation. So for 1 mole of substance, whatever the enthalpy is needed to transform the phase, to change the phase from one state to another state, from one phase to another phase, that is called the phase transformation enthalpy. That means the enthalpy associated with the phase transformation is called the phase transformation enthalpy. If the process is melting, it will be called the enthalpy of melting. If it is evaporation, enthalpy of evaporation. If it is condensation, enthalpy of condensation, etc. So whatever the process will be associated with, the enthalpy change, that will be the name of the enthalpy change, that will be the enthalpy change. Enthalpy change for the phase transformation, enthalpy change for the melting, boiling, whatever it is, then that is called the phase transformation enthalpy. If the reaction is proceeding under standard condition, it will be the standard phase transformation enthalpy, otherwise it is a general phase transformation enthalpy. We are going to discuss the next, that is the formation enthalpy. What is the formation? formation of any of the compound from the element, formation enthalpy. So when you are going to form any of the compound, from which of the system you will form? If you have to prepare the carbon dioxide, you are using this reaction, CH4 plus O2 gives CO2 plus H2O. Surely this is not the proper reaction for finding the enthalpy of formation, because this is not an element, this is a compound itself. So there will be some formation enthalpy for this compound, and this is the formation enthalpy of the overall formation enthalpy for the carbon dioxide will be a little different. तो यहाँ पे हम सिर्फ ये फाइंड करेंगे कि what is the enthalpy difference between the formation enthalpy of methane and carbon dioxide, और कुछ हम यहाँ पे फाइंड नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. हमें क्या करना है, हमें फाइंड करना है फॉर्मेशन एंथैल्पी. और किसी भी कंपाउंड का फॉर्मेशन होता किससे है? श्योरली नॉट फ्रॉम द कंपाउंड, फ्रॉम द एलिमेंट्स. So whatever the element is responsible for the formation of that compound, that will be called, that will be used for the process. So if you need to take the example of the carbon dioxide, so this is the example, C plus O2 gives CO2. And whatever the enthalpy is associated with this process, here it is delta H formation equal to 393.5 kilojoule per mole. Then whatever the enthalpy is associated with this process, that will be called the formation enthalpy of the carbon dioxide. So whatever the enthalpy is associated under standard condition for the formation of any of the compound from its element, that is called the enthalpy of formation or the formation enthalpy. Again I am repeating the same thing. किसी भी कंपाउंड के प्रिपरेशन के लिए जो भी एंथैल्पी चेंज होता है, जब उस कंपाउंड को उसके करस्पॉन्डिंग एलिमेंट्स के थ्रू बनाया जा रहा हो, देन दैट एंथैल्पी चेंज इज कॉल्ड द एंथैल्पी ऑफ फॉर्मेशन. एंड इफ द प्रोसेस इज रनिंग अंडर स्टैंडर्ड कंडीशन, द प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड द स्टैंडर्ड, द एंथैल्पी इज कॉल्ड द स्टैंडर्ड एंथैल्पी ऑफ द फॉर्मेशन. Then this is the standard enthalpy of formation for any of the compound, that may be carbon dioxide, water or any other compound. Now we are going to see the thermochemical equations, and before that we will study about the chemical equation. What is the chemical equation? In the standard 9th we have discussed about the chemical equation. कैसे किसी chemical equation को लिखा जाता है वो हमने बताया था. वहाँ पे बताया गया था the reactants are written on the left hand side, products are on the right hand side. The arrow suggests the direction of the reaction. If the one headed single headed arrow is there, the reaction will be irreversible. और अगर ऐसा है then it will be reversible. So that is suggesting almost all the property of the system. We also say that whatever the condition, किसी भी रिएक्शन के लिए जो भी कंडीशन जनरेट करनी है, that should be written somewhere here. टेम्परेचर, प्रेशर, कैटलिस्ट, जो कुछ भी उसमें यूज होता है उसे हम करते हैं. दिस इज द रिएक्शन. Along with the reactant and product we also write the phase, solid है, liquid है, गैस है, जो भी है उसे हम लिखते हैं. But if you are writing a reaction, I am taking the same reaction whatever I have taken earlier, carbon a solid reacting with oxygen, again a solid, carbon dioxide solid gas and gas, and in this process whatever the enthalpy change is associated, that is minus 393.5, the value of delta H, then whatever the enthalpy change is associated, if you are representing that one also, then this is called the chemical reaction and this is the third. So a chemical reaction is written along with the thermal change. जो भी thermal change किसी भी chemical reaction में हो रहा है उसको भी साथ में अगर represent करते हैं, then that chemical reaction, that chemical equation is now called thermochemical equation. Okay? तो किसी भी केमिकल रिएक्शन को अगर हम उसके साथ चेंज होने वाले थर्म्स के साथ लिखें, जो भी वो हीट चेंज हो रहा है, एक्सोथर्मिक है, एंडोथर्मिक है, कितनी हीट निकल रही है, कितनी हीट कंज्यूम हो रही है, व्हाटएवर इज टेकिंग प्लेस, अगर हम उन चीज़ों को भी साथ में लिखें, नाउ द इक्वेशन इज कॉल्ड द thermochemical equation. Clear? So this is the thermochemical equation. We have written carbon and oxygen is reacting with each other to give the carbon dioxide. यहाँ पे कार्बन सॉलिड है, ऑक्सीजन गैस है, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड गैस है, एंड एंथैल्पी एसोसिएटेड इज माइनस 393.5 किलोजूल पर मोल. then kilojoule per mole. Then this is the enthalpy associated with the process, therm associated with the process. So this overall equation will be called the thermochemical equation. So then again, if a chemical reaction is written with the thermal change, whatever the thermal change is associated with the process, then that equation will be called the thermochemical equation. Similarly, if you are going to write the reaction which is a combustion, we have taken whatever the reaction we have taken, that is actually the reaction of the combustion, CO2 plus whatever the enthalpy change is taking place. So if this is the combustion reaction, then whatever the enthalpy change associated with this process will be called, combustion के साथ जो भी enthalpy change हो रही है उसे हम क्या बोलेंगे, that will be called the enthalpy of combustion. So whenever the process of combustion is taking place, then the enthalpy change associated with the process of combustion will be called the combustion enthalpy. Here the example is the very simple example, carbon plus oxygen, that is the carbon dioxide giving carbon dioxide, where carbon is solid, oxygen is a gas and carbon dioxide is a gas. Then whatever the enthalpy change is taking place, delta H combustion will be called delta H combustion, that is the enthalpy of combustion, and again the value will be the same, that is the 393.5 kilojoule per mole. So enthalpy associated with the process of combustion will be called the enthalpy of combustion. Similarly, the enthalpy associated with the making or breaking of bond, that will be called the bond enthalpy. That means the minimum energy associated for the formation of bond will be called the bond enthalpy. Here one important thing, whenever we talk about the bond formation enthalpy or bond enthalpy, generally whatever the reaction we take, that is the bond formation, and we need to find the energy, that is the bond dissociation. यानी कि जो हमें चाहिए उसका उल्टा प्रोसेस हम देख रहे हैं, और ऐसा होने की वजह से और सारे प्रोसेस में तो हम क्या करते हैं, इंथैल्पी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट माइनस इंथैल्पी ऑफ रिएक्टेंट इक्वल टू इंथैल्पी ऑफ प्रोसेस. लेकिन बॉन्ड डिसोसिएशन इंथैल्पी के केस में हम क्या करते हैं, इंथैल्पी ऑफ रिएक्टेंट माइनस इंथैल्पी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट. आई एम रिपीटिंग इट अगेन, इंथैल्पी ऑफ रिएक्टेंट माइनस इंथैल्पी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट विल बी द इंथैल्पी ऑफ बॉन्ड, that is the bond dissociation enthalpy. And this is not the bond dissociation enthalpy of a single bond. This is the bond dissociation enthalpy for all the bonds. And if all the bonds have the similar amount of energy, we have discussed many of the compound where the bonds are the different. वैसे भी पहले बॉन्ड के टूटने के बाद दूसरे बॉन्ड के टूटने में एनर्जी डिफरेंट यूज होती है. सो ऑल द बॉन्ड्स हैव द डिफरेंट एनर्जी वैल्यूज. सो व्हाटएवर द एंथैल्पी वी गेट, जो भी हम बॉन्ड डिसोसिएशन एंथैल्पी पाते हैं, दैट इज नॉट the exact value of the bond dissociation enthalpy, that is the average bond dissociation enthalpy, that is the average value of the bond dissociation enthalpy. Then that is called bond dissociation enthalpy, that is the enthalpy associated with the formation of the bond. Similarly, if the process of atomization is taking place, that means the crystal is breaking in the form of the atom, molecule is breaking in the form of the atom, then whatever the enthalpy is associated with that process of the atomization, that will be called the enthalpy of atomization. Similarly, other processes are there, whatever the name of the process will be there, the name of the enthalpy associated with that will also be there. So you can say that the enthalpy have the different name according to their process, whatever the process is taking place, according to that the enthalpy will be there. Enthalpy of reaction, enthalpy of formation, enthalpy of phase transformation. We have also seen some other enthalpy, that is the bond dissociation enthalpy, etc., etc. So these are the different type of the enthalpy. In the next video we will see the Hayes law and its application, that is the Born-Haber cycle, and some of the other factors. Till then, bye. Have a nice day.